Leon Varela coughed black into the snow, and the mountain that fed his town suddenly looked like it was trying to bury him alive. The dust injury notice arrived folded like a funeral card, telling him his lungs were too scarred for one more underground shift. For 15 years he had ridden cages into dripping shafts, where helmet lamps shook across wet rock and coal glittered like trapped midnight. He knew the weight of a shovel, the groan of conveyor belts, and the taste of grit that clung to dinner. But now every breath felt like inhaling through burnt cloth, and the mine gate shut behind him without a promise. Layoff mornings were the worst, because the porch stayed still while the rest of town drove toward jobs he could no longer do. He sat in his truck outside the unemployment office, staring at his cracked knuckles, feeling useless in a place built to admire endurance. Then he spotted a free night course flyer taped crookedly inside the community college window, meant for apprentice electricians and anyone willing to learn. He almost laughed at the word free, because when your paycheck disappears, even hope has to come without a price tag. The first night he walked into class wearing steel-toe boots and a miner's jacket, smelling faintly of grease and damp earth. He was older than most students, slower with formulas, and embarrassed when his injured lungs made him pause climbing the stairs. Wires, voltage charts, and code books looked nothing like the rock walls he understood, and every page felt like learning a new alphabet. So Leon treated studying like a shift underground, dividing each chapter into chunks and attacking one dangerous section at a time. He taped circuit diagrams above the kitchen sink, memorizing connections while rinsing dishes and waiting for his cough to settle. He used colored pencils his daughter left behind to separate positive, negative, ground, and load until the chaos finally gained shape. When equations tangled him up, he copied them by hand 10 times because his body trusted repetition more than inspiration. During breaks, he asked younger classmates blunt, practical questions, turning pride into a tool instead of a chain around his throat. Then one instructor mentioned solar installation, and something in Leon lifted because sunlight did not ask him to crawl underground. He had never touched a solar panel, and training equipment was scarce, expensive, and always claimed by day students before he arrived. So he scavenged the trailer yard behind an appliance repair lot, where discarded refrigerator doors leaned silver and flat against the fence. On those refrigerator doors laid over cinder blocks, he practiced panel spacing, bracket placement, cable runs, and the rhythm of tightening clamps evenly. Moonlight washed the metal white, while his flashlight bounced between screws, and his frost-stiff fingers learned precision, one cold mistake at a time. He drilled too close to edges, stripped bolts, misread measurements, and watched entire mock setups sag sideways into the dirt. Instead of hiding the failures, he painted each bad measurement in red marker and wrote the fix beside it. Soon the trailer yard looked like a strange mechanical classroom, lined with fridge doors mapped in arrows, numbers, and weatherproof tape. He trained his breath too, pacing each lift and crouch so scarred lungs could work without sending panic through his chest. Every skill got broken into pieces he could survive. Carry one section, rest, mount one rail, check once more, continue. While other people saw energy as abstract policy and utility bills, Leon saw it as alignment, torque, weather seals, and breath management. He studied rooftops the way he once studied seams of coal, noticing pitch, shade lines, snowdrift patterns, and where afternoon sun lingered longest. The old tipple at the edge of town haunted him most, that skeletal loading structure where he had once filled rail cars with black rock. Rust crawled over its beams, broken windows flashed empty sky, and pigeons nested where conveyor belts used to scream all night. Leon asked permission to use the abandoned building for storage, then started clearing it out with a broom, a pry bar, and stubbornness. He hauled away rotten planks, swept drifts of coal dust into black dunes, and opened warped doors to let daylight flood the ruin. Sunbeams landed across the floor, where coal had once thundered through chutes, turning the air gold instead of gray. With salvaged tables, labeled bins, and homemade racks, he transformed the ruined tipple into a mirror-bright solar workshop piece by piece. People slowed their trucks when passing, confused to see sunlight gleaming from the bones of a coal building they thought was already dead. Work did not pour in immediately, because prideful towns are slow to trust new trades. especially from someone they remember coughing at the mine. Some neighbors called solar a hobby for outsiders, too fragile for snow, too expensive for ranch budgets, too strange for a mining town. Leon answered doubt with paperwork, measurements, and patience, showing production estimates beside utility costs on worn folding tables. He offered free roof checks, explained panel angles with chalk on plywood, and carried sample mounts to hardware stores and union breakfasts. He did not sell sunshine as magic. He sold lower bills, backup power, local labor, and systems built for brutal weather. His first small jobs were unglamorous but essential: a shed battery bank, a ranch workshop charger, a church annex roof patch. Each finished system became proof he could build reliability, not just talk about a future brighter than the past. Then the town needed a practical answer. After repeated outages hit the water pumps, tool chargers, and the school cafeteria lights, Leon submitted a proposal from the old tipple workshop, his hands shaking as town board members flipped through his careful drawings and cost sheets. He knew exactly what failure would mean, because every man laid off from the mine was watching to see if reinvention was real. The contract came through on a windy afternoon, and Leon stood alone in the workshop, staring at the paper like it was a map out. Installation week turned rooftops and maintenance sheds into battlegrounds of ice, glare, ladders, torque wrenches, and precise repetition. Snowmelt dripped from eaves, while Leon checked every anchor twice, because mistakes on public systems become stories that poison trust for years. His lungs burned in the cold, so he paced crews with strict breaks, hydration timers, and task rotations he designed around endurance. The old miner who once endured everything silently had learned that lasting work is built by respecting limits before limits break you. When the first array came online, the inverter screen flickered alive inside a metal cabinet, humming with fresh purpose. Water pumps kicked steadily, maintenance tools charged without sputtering, and the school cafeteria lights glowed warm across stainless counters before dawn. In that moment, the town that had watched him swallow ash now watched him wire sunlight into everyday survival. Kids eating breakfast under those lights did not see a policy debate or a market trend. They saw a room that worked. Mechanics plugging in tools did not care about slogans. They cared that batteries charged and shifts could continue without dead outlets. For Leon, the deepest victory was stranger and quieter, because the same place that once damaged his lungs was now helping protect other people's futures. The tipple no longer loaded coal into rail cars. It loaded knowledge, parts, and wages into a town learning another way to stay alive. Men who once worked beside him visited the workshop, running rough hands across glass panels, as if testing whether change could really hold weight. Leon showed them brackets, permits, calculators, and hiring pathways, proving that reinvention starts with systems, not speeches. He told them the smartest move he made was taking one free class before he felt ready, because readiness rarely arrives first. He explained that practicing on refrigerator doors mattered because training on fake versions of real problems builds confidence without expensive consequences. He admitted that writing fixes in red marker mattered because progress speeds up when mistakes become manuals instead of secrets. He pointed to his calendar wall, packed with tiny study blocks and recovery breaks, showing that discipline looks ordinary before it looks heroic. Leon's journey did not erase the mine or the damage in his lungs, and that honesty made his success useful instead of mythical. He still coughed sometimes in the morning, still carried inhalers, still remembered wet tunnels whenever storms darkened the hills. But now when sunlight struck the tipple windows, they flashed like a message the whole town could finally read. Start where you are injured, he proved, because even damaged ground can support something powerful if you learn new ways to build on it. Use whatever stands in for the real thing, because a refrigerator door in a trailer yard can become a training field. Break impossible changes into visible tasks, track your errors, protect your limits, and let useful work rebuild your name piece by piece. Leon once hauled darkness from underground, and now the town points to him when the sun starts paying the bills.